The storm raged outside, fierce winds whipping through the trees and torrential rain falling like a curtain across the land. It was the kind of weather that would make most people stay indoors, yet Amelia, a dedicated animal rescuer, was out, in the thick of it, driving down a winding country road toward a temporary foster home. Her car's headlights sliced through the darkness, the sound of the rain battering the roof almost deafening. But Amelia paid no attention to the chaos outside. Her thoughts were focused solely on the task at hand. She had been doing animal rescue work for years, and in this unpredictable world there was one thing she could count on. The animals were always counting on her. She glanced at the pile of supplies in the passenger seat: blankets, food, toys, and medicine, all for the animals waiting at the foster home. The home was a small haven for abandoned and rescued animals, a place of peace and safety amidst the chaos of the outside world. Despite the storm, Amelia drove on, her heart calm and determined. She had driven through storms before. She knew the risks, but she also knew that every mile brought her closer to making a difference in an animal's life. It was why she did what she did. It was why she had chosen this path, no matter the challenges. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, the windshield wipers working overtime to clear the sheets of rain that lashed against the glass. Her mind began to wander for a moment, thinking about the animals she had rescued in the past: dogs, cats, birds, and even rabbits. Each of them had their own story, their own battle, and their own journey to recovery. And each of them had shaped her into the person she was today. Then, out of the silence of the storm, a sound broke through. A barking. It was frantic, desperate, and it cut through the storm's howling winds like a knife. Amelia's head snapped to the side, her heart skipping a beat. At first, she thought it was just the wind playing tricks on her, but then she heard it again, louder, more urgent this time. A dog was barking, and it wasn't just any bark. It was the kind of bark that demanded attention. Amelia's instincts kicked in. She wasn't the type of person to ignore a cry for help, especially not when it came from an animal. The barking seemed to come from just off the road, down a narrow path leading into a wooded area. Her eyes scanned the landscape, searching through the rain. Without a second thought, she turned the steering wheel and veered off the main road, driving slowly down the muddy, flooded path. The headlights illuminated the thick trees and the swirling puddles in the path ahead. But still, the barking persisted. It was coming from further down, near a drainage tunnel that ran beneath a small bridge. As she approached the tunnel, the barking grew louder, more insistent. There was no mistaking it now. Something was in trouble. Amelia parked the car just off the road and grabbed the flashlight from the glove compartment. She could barely see through the rain, but she knew one thing: the dog needed her. She ran toward the tunnel, slipping on the wet ground, but she kept her eyes fixed ahead. The barking was now accompanied by a low whimpering sound, as if the dog was in pain. When she reached the tunnel, her flashlight beam fell on a heartbreaking sight. There, chained to a rusted pipe just outside the tunnel, was a mother dog, her body shivering from the cold, but her eyes burning with fierce determination. She was desperately pulling at the chain, trying to get closer to something. Amelia's heart broke at the sight, but it was the next thing she saw that made her stomach twist with fear. Beneath the mother dog, hidden in the dirt and debris, was a small pile of puppies. They were weak and trembling, their tiny bodies barely visible beneath the mud, but they were alive. The tunnel had begun to flood. The water was rising, swirling around the mother dog's paws, and the puppies were in immediate danger of being swept away. Amelia's breath caught in her throat. Without thinking, she dropped to her knees in the mud, her hands reaching out toward the mother dog. "It's okay," she whispered softly, trying to calm the frightened animal. The mother's eyes locked onto hers, and for a brief moment, there was a silent understanding between them. The dog's gaze was full of fear for her puppies, but there was also an unspoken plea in her eyes. Amelia knew what she had to do. The bond between them was already forming, and it was stronger than any storm. Amelia's hands worked quickly, but the chain was rusted and difficult to break. Her heart raced as the water continued to rise, her mind focused solely on saving the mother and her puppies. The storm roared above them, but she barely noticed it. Amelia's hands were shaking as she fumbled with the rusted chain, her fingers slipping against the cold metal. The mother dog, sensing the urgency, whined softly, her eyes never leaving. The puppies. The water had reached her ankles now, the flood rising quickly with each passing second. Amelia's breath quickened as she tugged harder on the chain, but it wouldn't budge. She looked around desperately for something to break it, anything that could help her free the dog before it was too late. The wind howled in her ears, but all she could hear was the mother dog's anxious growls and the whimpers of the puppies. Her mind raced, and in a moment of panic, Amelia's gaze fell on a large metal pipe protruding from the side of the tunnel. It was heavy, old and weathered, but it was sturdy enough to be used as leverage. Without hesitation, Amelia grabbed the pipe, pulling it toward her, and using it as a makeshift tool, she began to wrench the chain. The pressure in her arms was unbearable, but she couldn't stop now. The storm raged on, but Amelia's focus was complete, her will to save these animals, stronger than any storm. Suddenly there was a loud snap as the chain finally gave way. Amelia's heart leaped in her chest. She grabbed the dog's collar, helping her to her feet, and then reached down to carefully scoop up one of the puppies in her arms. It was cold, its tiny body trembling, but it was alive. The mother dog immediately nudged the puppy, her eyes filled with gratitude, as though understanding that Amelia was their lifeline. The water, however, was rising fast, too fast. Amelia could feel the pressure in her chest, the danger of the situation closing in on them. "Come on," Amelia urged, her voice shaking as she reached for the other puppies. She didn't know how much time they had left, but she wasn't going to leave them behind. The mother dog, now free from her chain, moved swiftly, though her movements were cautious. She didn't leave her puppies. Even as Amelia scooped up the last of the tiny creatures, the mother stood guard, her eyes scanning the darkened tunnel for any signs of further danger. But the storm had already done enough. The water was rising rapidly, the current too strong to safely walk through without the fear of being swept away. Amelia made a split-second decision. She picked up the remaining puppies one by one, cradling them as best as she could in her arms. "We need to move now," she said softly, more to herself than to the animals. The mother dog followed, walking slowly but steadily beside her, guiding Amelia as they navigated the flooded path out of the tunnel. The puppies' whimpers filled the air, their tiny bodies shivering in Amelia's arms. The storm felt like a wall of chaos, but as they moved forward, Amelia felt a sense of peace. There was something about the mother dog's protective instincts, her fierce loyalty to her pups, that gave Amelia the strength she needed. She would not let them down. As they reached the car, Amelia gently placed the puppies on the seat of the passenger side, making sure they were all safe. The mother dog hopped into the back seat, her eyes never leaving her puppies as she lay down beside them, still protective but now visibly exhausted. Amelia turned the key in the ignition, the engine roaring to life, and with one last glance at the flooded tunnel behind them, she drove off, her heart swelling with emotion. It wasn't just about the rescue anymore. It was about the bond she had just formed, a bond that no storm could break. The drive to the rescue center was quiet. The rain now just a dull patter against the windshield. Amelia's thoughts were heavy, but her heart was lighter than it had been when she had first seen the mother dog chained to that rusted pipe. The car slowed as they entered the shelter's driveway, and Amelia parked near the entrance. She rushed to gather the puppies, bringing them inside as quickly as she could. The rescue center staff, already prepared for the incoming animals, rushed to assist. They took the puppies from Amelia, placing them into warm beds with gentle care. The mother dog, now named Hope by Amelia, symbolizing her strength, her survival, and her unwavering devotion, was guided to a comfortable corner where she could rest. Amelia stood watching her, a sense of pride swelling in her chest. The puppies were weak, but there was hope for them yet. They were cleaned, warmed, and placed in an incubator to recover from the cold. Amelia stayed by their side for hours, watching over them as they began to show signs of strength. By the time night fell, the mother dog had begun to trust Amelia fully, her once cautious eyes now filled with gratitude. She had finally begun to relax, lying quietly beside her puppies, and allowing Amelia to gently pet her. The emotional bond between them had been forged in the storm, in that moment of chaos and fear, but it was growing stronger with each passing hour. Amelia had saved their lives, but in doing so, Hope had saved hers in return. Days passed, and Hope's transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The mother dog, once nervous and anxious, had now become an incredibly intelligent and protective figure. She kept a watchful eye over her puppies, but her demeanor had softened. Her bond with Amelia had grown too. Hope would follow her wherever she went, always looking out for her. The puppies, though still fragile, were slowly regaining their strength. Hope would often nuzzle them gently, encouraging them to nurse or sleep. Her instincts were sharp, and it was clear she was determined to give them the best chance at life. But it wasn't just the puppies that Hope protected. The rescue center had a few volunteers, and one day when a stranger arrived to help, Hope stepped forward, her posture tense and defensive. Amelia, standing nearby, watched as Hope stood her ground. The volunteer, unaware of the dog's protective nature, took a hesitant step forward. But Hope wouldn't let anyone get too close. Amelia approached slowly, calling Hope back with a calm voice. "It's okay, girl," she said, kneeling down to her level. "They're friends." Hope turned to Amelia, her eyes filled with a mixture of trust and caution. Slowly she relaxed, but it was clear Hope was not just a mother. She was a protector, a guardian, and a loyal companion. Amelia continued to work tirelessly, tending to the puppies and making sure Hope received all the care and attention she needed. Days turned into weeks, and the puppies grew stronger with each passing day. But it wasn't just the puppies that Amelia was watching. It was Hope's transformation. That was becoming the true miracle of this story. Hope had become more than just a rescued dog. She was a symbol of resilience, loyalty, and strength. She had not only overcome the trauma of being abandoned and chained in that flooding tunnel, but she had also found a new purpose in her life, protecting her puppies and perhaps protecting the people who had shown her kindness. One afternoon, as Amelia worked in the shelter's office, she heard a loud crash from outside. Her heart leaped into her throat as she rushed to the door, hoping it was nothing too serious. As she stepped outside, she saw the scene that made her blood run cold. A volunteer was lying on the ground, a man stumbling backward, holding his chest. He had been attacked by a wild animal, a raccoon that had snuck into the shelter's yard. The raccoon was retreating, its claws extended as it prepared to strike again. But before Amelia could react, Hope sprang into action. The mother dog, once calm and relaxed, had become an entirely different creature in that moment. With a growl that could shake the ground, Hope lunged forward, her body moving faster than Amelia had ever seen before. In an instant, she was at the volunteer's side, her teeth bared and her stance firm. The raccoon, startled by the fierce protector, froze for a moment. Hope's growl grew louder, more intimidating, and with one swift movement, she charged at the wild animal. The raccoon, realizing it was no match for the determined mother dog, scurried away, disappearing into the woods. Amelia stood frozen, her heart racing in her chest. Hope had saved the volunteer's life, without hesitation or fear. She had proven that not only was she a protector to her puppies, but to anyone who might need her. The volunteer, his face pale but relieved, sat up slowly. I can't believe it," he stammered, looking at Hope. "She saved my life." Amelia knelt beside Hope, rubbing her head gently. "She's not just a dog," Amelia whispered to herself, her eyes welling up with tears. "She's a hero." As time passed, Hope's transformation from a fearful and chained dog into a brave and protective hero became a symbol of the shelter's mission of recovery, strength, and the power of love. Amelia's bond with Hope deepened, and she came to realize that Hope wasn't just an animal she had saved. She was a part of Amelia's family now, and the connection between them ran deeper than words. The puppies, though once frail and weak, had become healthy and strong thanks to Hope's unyielding love and care. The little family, once on the brink of death, was now thriving, and it was clear that the bond they shared was something powerful and rare. Amelia looked at Hope one evening as the dog lay beside her on the couch, her puppies curled up in the corner, all safely sleeping. The storm had passed, but the bond formed in the middle of that chaos had not only transformed Hope's life, but had changed Amelia's as well. She couldn't remember what life had been like before Hope, before the rescue, before the moment when their paths had crossed. It felt as though they had always been meant to find each other. The shelter had become their home, Hope's, the puppies, and Amelia's, and they were a family, not bound by blood, but by something stronger. They had been brought together by circumstances, but they had stayed together because of love, loyalty, and an unbreakable bond. One evening, as Amelia sat on the porch of the shelter, Hope beside her, watching the sunset, Amelia reflected on everything that had brought them to this point. She thought about the storm, the flooded tunnel, the fear in the mother dog's eyes, and the love that had radiated from her even in the darkest of moments. Hope had never stopped loving her puppies, never stopped fighting for them. Even when the world seemed to be against them, she had proven over and over again that love and loyalty had the power to overcome the most terrifying of storms. Amelia leaned down and gently patted Hope's head. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. "You've been my shelter in the storm. You've saved me just as much as I've saved you." Hope turned her head to look at Amelia, her brown eyes full of understanding. She didn't need to speak. Her presence alone was enough to say everything. Then, Hope did something that would forever stay in Amelia's heart. The dog reached up and placed her paw gently on Amelia's lap, her head resting on Amelia's knee, a silent promise of love and protection. It was the gesture of a hero, a protector, a loyal companion. Amelia smiled through the tears that had welled up in her eyes. She had always known that the bond she shared with Hope was special, but this simple gesture solidified it for her. The rescuer and the rescued, the protector and the protected. Together, they had made it through the storm, and together, they would face whatever came next side by side, family through love. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Amelia whispered softly, "You are my hero, Hope." And in response, Hope let out a soft, contented sigh, her tail wagging gently, a perfect moment of peace after the storm. Months later, as the shelter continued to thrive and more animals found their forever homes, a call came in. A new emergency, a dog in desperate need of rescue, and a situation that only one dog could handle. Amelia watched as Hope, now strong and confident, stood by her side. She could feel the bond they shared, a bond that had been forged in the fire of adversity. It was time for Hope to lead the way again. But this time, she wasn't just a hero in the making, she was the hero, the protector who had saved so many and had become a beacon of hope for everyone who had crossed her path. Hope was more than just a mother. She was the symbol of survival, the spirit of resilience, and the embodiment of unconditional love. She had come from the darkness, but now she was the light. And as they set off toward the new rescue mission, Amelia knew one thing for certain. No matter what the storm brought, she and Hope would always face it together. If you were moved by Hope and Amelia's incredible journey, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below telling us how you've been inspired by their bond. If you want to see more heartwarming stories like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Together, we can spread hope and kindness to those who need it the most. Thank you for watching.